Girl, real talk. This whole "it's new year, time to reinvent myself" trash is not the vibe for 2024. You can find someone who loves you for you, as you are. You don't need to read a stack of self-help books, only eat sad salads, or start meditating at 5 a.m. to be ready for dating. So yeah, my advice is to download Bumble and find someone who embraces you the way you are right now. Let me know how it goes.
Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
The following podcast is based on actual police dispatch recordings, police reports, witness testimony, and 911 calls.
A note to listeners. The following podcast contains content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Discretion is advised.
It was just a nightmare.
They got a pursuit?
Yeah, it's a black 2012 Honda Accord.
Are they still running with their lights off? We didn't know who was in the car. I mean, we had no idea.
Nobody deserved what happened to them.
It kind of broke my heart a little.
She is Native American. Molly is Chickasaw Nation.
Someone you grew up with has just vanished into thin air, and it's a lot of emotion.
It's just not fair. Everybody knows everybody within these two counties.
There's got to be someone else behind it that they're way more scared of that can get them out here or in jail.
We're talking in jail about all the locations that they said they'd taken Molly's remains.
If you want an answer, it's probably there.
It's just really weird to being the sheriff's cousin, and the sheriff telling us, not to get involved, telling us not to talk to nobody.
I received information from a guy who claims he was there when everything happened to Molly and Colt.
Everything inside me that this day was going to be the day that we found her. There was not a doubt in my mind.
You're listening to Partners in True Crime. We are your hosts, Rob and Cindy Dorfman. Wilson, Oklahoma is a slice of land in Carter County with a population just under 2,000. And just 30 miles to the south is Love County, an insulated pocket on the Texas border where strangers are met with nods and whispers. These two counties are in the heart of Chickasaw Country and Tornado Alley.
This is America's heartland, once a booming epicenter for oil and railroad tycoons. It became home to the vibrant Chickasaw Nation. And now, it's a hotspot for drug trafficking. Love and Carter County have been ravaged by an alarming methamphetamine epidemic.
The legends of the Native Americans whisper through the wind, reminding outsiders that Love and Carter County share deep roots. This is a place where everybody knows everybody and their secrets.
Some believe that tornadoes come through these parts just to rip everything open, so those secrets can breathe, and then maybe the truth will finally be revealed.
Molly Miller is half Chickasaw. She was born in Wilson, Oklahoma on April 30th, 1996. She lives with her grandparents and her mother. The Millers have lived in these parts for over a century.
Molly is a talented athlete. And Alex, her grandfather, proudly shows her softball trophies to anyone who visits. Molly is the light of his life.
Everybody knows Molly. She's feisty, rebellious, and she has a reputation for speaking her mind. And sometimes this gets her into trouble.
On June 28, 2013, Molly gets into a raging argument with her mother, Melissa. She takes off and goes to a friend's house.
These blow-ups didn't usually last long. Molly would always come back in a few days and they would make up. But this time was different because Molly met a new guy, and his name is Colt Haynes.
Colt is older and good-looking, and Molly has a huge crush on him. The problem is Colt has some drama. He has a baby with another girl, and he has a reputation around town, getting into trouble with the law and all that. But Colt is only 22 years old, and he's still trying to figure life out. Sometimes he makes the wrong decisions, like with the drugs. But that's another story. Molly has been hanging out with him for the past week, and tonight they're going to a party with another friend, Conn Nipp.
Conn Nipp is just a spoiled 21-year-old kid who also lives with his grandparents, but he lives in Love County about 30 minutes from Molly. Conn has a reputation for getting into trouble, but nothing ever seems to happen to him. The Nipp family has long roots in Love County. They have also been there for over a half a century. And they live on a compound deep in the woods surrounded by thousands of acres of land.
There are lots of rumors about this family, but they have molded Love County, and everyone knows the Nipps. Molly knows Conn. In fact, she is even a distant cousin. But that's how things are here. People are connected.
And sometimes there's some bad blood between the families. And the Millers and the Nipps, they have their moments over the years. But Molly and Conn are friends and genuinely like each other. At least that's what Molly believes.
Conn and Colt, well, they have their issues. Conn used to date Colt's baby mama, and it was a bad relationship. An abusive relationship. So Conn and Colt, they aren't really friends, which is why it's odd that they're hanging out so much. On Sunday, July 7th, 2013, temperatures soar past 100 degrees, with humidity so thick it's hard to move. They could get a twister at any time. The clouds are so thick that the moon is struggling to break through and finally gives up. The night is pitch black, the kind of darkness that forces you to blink a few times to adjust your eyes. Molly is ready to party. She's trying to persuade her girlfriend to go with them, but Jessica won't budge. And she warns Molly not to go either. You know there's so much drama with Conn and Colt, she reminds Molly. But this doesn't change Molly's mind. Instead, she grabs her purse and her phone and hops in the car with Conn Nipp and Colt Haynes. Around 10:30 p.m., Conn makes a pit stop at a convenience store to pick up some beer. It's a simple decision that will change the course of their lives forever.
At 10:46 p.m., Wilson PD Captain Ryan Parsley is in a parking lot across the street from the convenience store when a 2012 Honda Accord rips out in front of him, spraying gravel and hitting speeds of over 100 miles per hour. Parsley flips on his lights, but the car speeds up, igniting a pursuit, and Parsley is on his tail. He calls Wilson PD for backup.
July 7, 2013, 22, 42, 51.
Wilson 2, be advised your radio is extremely staticky.
Stop, subject can be wrecked driving, doing donuts through town in Wilson.
It's like a scene out of a movie. Within minutes, there are over a dozen police cars in pursuit.
Conn Nipp is taking police on a wild ride through the backroads of Oklahoma. He's driving them into traffic, turning his lights on and off, and Molly is in the back seat, holding on for dear life.
They're turning east on Water Moccasin right now. Yeah, it's a black 2012 Honda Accord. Are they still running with their lights off? Coming up on Oswald Road. Love County has sighted the vehicle. They are now in pursuit.
When Love County Sheriff's Department gets involved, they know exactly who it is.
Units advised they do believe it's Conn Nipp.
And they know exactly where he is going.
Probably going to Long Hollow.
This vehicle, we're lost sight. We are heading eastbound towards Long Hollow on Oswald. They probably went all the way to the end. They're going to hit the woods again like they did last time.
Conn races into the thick woods and shakes the police.
know exactly.
There's a lot of gravel, smoke and debris in the roadway. It's to the end of Long Hollow. Lost visual of it. The gates at the end are closed. Doesn't appear to be any tracks at the end.
They have lost sight of the vehicle. They do not see him.
3160.
Correction, 3160.
I bet you bad. They're going to be on Court again.
He freaking went out on a dirt road and they lost him, so they're still out looking.
I know.
In between Park Road and Long Hollow, I'm coming back down. There was a lot of gravel, smoke and debris in the roadway just back west of Long Hollow. I come all the way to the end of Long Hollow. Down at the end, gates closed, chains on the fence, no fresh tracks. But like I said, in between Long Hollow and Park Road, there was a whole bunch of smoke. I don't know if there was a driveway or something they may have taken up through there.
Conn dumps the car and heads home.
But Molly and Colt are left in the woods.
Police spot a white pickup truck near Long Hollow Road and Pike.
Dispatch, I got a guy flashing me down here in this pasture. I'm south of Pike. It's going to be a white Ford pickup, be a white male, jeans, no shirt.
Officers continue to patrol the area looking for any sign of Conn and the Honda.
Molly and Colt are running through the woods. It's so dark you can't see in front of you. The area is massive. Thousands of acres of brush, thorns, makes it so hard to run. And there's dangerous wildlife lurking in the bushes. This is rattlesnake country, and it's high season.
Police sirens are still blaring in the distance. Colt climbs into a tree and tries to see if he can figure out where they are, but he falls to the ground and breaks his leg. He's screaming in pain.
While Molly is frantically calling friends for help. But the cell service is sketchy. Then at 12:48 a.m., Molly accidentally calls 911. She doesn't identify herself, and the operator has no idea that she is the person who was in the back seat of the car during the high-speed chase. And the operator doesn't know that Molly might be in danger.
Finally, Colt gets through to his friend, Devin Johnson. "I'm bleeding. I broke my leg. You gotta come get me. We need help. We are somewhere near Long Hollow Road." At 1:30 a.m., Wilson PD decides to call it a night and they can't find the car.
Molly knows these woods. She's spent time on Long Hollow Road. But in the dark, she's afraid she'll get lost and she just won't leave Colt. Meanwhile, Molly and Colt's friends, Benita Long, Devin Johnson, Colby Turner, and Rob Nichols, take flashlights and four-wheelers and head into the woods. But it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. After a few hours, they decide to go home and wait for first light. The next morning at 6 a.m., Molly finally gets through to her friend.
At 9 a.m., the search party, Benita, Devin, Colby, and Rob are still looking for Colt and Molly. Colt tells them to go to Conn Nipp's house because he knows exactly where he left them.
When the group arrives at Conn's house, the Nipp family surrounds them. Conn doesn't know anything. You go get out of here. But the group isn't buying it. Conn, where are they? Conn shrugs. I have no idea what you're talking about.
They call Colt and they put him on the phone with Conn. "Here, you talk to him. He says you know where they are."
Conn says, "I told you, I don't know where they are." But he grabs the phone.
Colt is screaming, "You better come get us, you motherfucker. You left us here."
Jennifer Nipp, Conn's aunt, tells the group to leave. "You're trespassing. You better get out of here." At 9:30 a.m., Molly talks to another friend.
The group heads back to the woods and continues the search. There are no more calls on either Molly or Colt's phone after 10 a.m. on July 8th, 2013.
And Molly and Colt are never seen again.
2 weeks later, a Love County Sheriff deputy finds the car that Conn dumped after the high-speed chase. It's about 1,500 feet from the Nipp property line.
The Honda belongs to Sabrina Graham.
Negative NCIC, owner Sabrina Graham of Lone Grove.
Sabrina is also Conn Nipp's girlfriend. She reported it stolen the night of the chase. And 6 months later, Conn Nipp is in another high-speed chase. But this time he gets arrested by Oklahoma Highway Patrol. And he's sentenced to 10 years in prison, even though he only serves 4.
Conn Nipp has never been charged with any crime in connection to Molly and Colt's disappearance.
But 3 years later, in 2016, the sheriff of Love County, Joe Russell, he's arrested for running drugs and harboring a fugitive.
It's never made any sense to us how 3 friends can go out for a night and only one is alive.
Conn Nipp continues to claim that he has no knowledge of what happened that night.
It's been almost a decade since Molly and Colt disappeared without a trace.
There have been thousands of leads and theories about what happened to them, but their bodies have never been found, and this case has run cold. We believe that there are multiple people who know exactly what happened to Molly and Colt. We've been doing true crime shows for a long time, so we decided to do this case for a podcast because we covered the show for Oxygen a few years ago. And unfortunately, we didn't get a resolution at the time, but we did get a really good look into this town and into the people that were involved in this case. And it was a little scary.
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary because we went in there and only knowing a little bit about the broad strokes of the case. 3 people going in a car chase and then 2 missing. We knew a little bit about Molly's story, but after spending, I don't know, we were there for like almost a week and a half. And
we were there for a couple weeks.
Weeks. It was a little daunting to find out all the different layers with the relationship between the police and the community and how everybody was related, and it's a small town, and literally we're talking one street in Love County, couple traffic lights.
Yeah, it's really small and everybody knows everybody. I mean, when they told me that on the phone, everybody knows everybody here, I didn't really believe it until I saw it. I mean, we've been to small towns before, but not like this. 2 counties that are like maybe 30 miles away from each other and they all know each other. That's what was bizarre. So when Paula took us out to look at some of these places, and we went out there with her private investigator to look at the property line, and Conn Nipp was there watching us. He had a laser on my head.
Yep.
I remember calling you on walkie and going,
he's on the show, which is really kind of crazy. By listening to this podcast, you're going to get all the information, both the current and also new and developing information. We're going to go through all the police reports. We're going to talk to people who investigated the case. We're going to talk to people who
recently are investigating the case, and also some tips that have come in that we want to explore and see what happens. Because this case had a lot of other things going on in the town. So we'll get into the details of the case. We just wanted to let everyone know that we have a close connection to this case. This isn't something random. We produced a TV show about this case, and we are knee deep in it, or actually up to my neck at this point in it.
We hope by taking another look at the evidence and the facts in this case that someone will come forward.
And that they're finally going to tell the truth. In January 2021, Molly Miller was legally declared deceased by her family. A month later, Molly's grandfather, Alex, passed away from COVID without ever knowing what happened to his beloved granddaughter. It's heartbreaking to see a family destroyed like this. And Paula Fielder and her family, they were destroyed by this. Molly's grandfather, when we went to the house, he was the sweetest man. He brought us in and he showed us all of her trophies and all of her things. You could tell that he loved this girl. He loved Molly.
I mean, there was a shrine in the house. We're talking like poster-sized pictures of Molly.
Yeah, he just loved this child so much. And the fact that he never got to see any resolution to this case is kind of what sparked us to say, you know what, Paula needs our help, and that's why we're here.
Well, Paula needs help. She needs help from everybody.
She does.
So that's why we want to do this. So hopefully by bringing more ears and eyeballs to this case that in the public in that area, because it's been like almost a decade now, you would think someone would want to talk, or someone definitely knows something. Yeah. They, I mean, everybody that we've talked to, you can tell when you're talking talking to them that they know more than that they're telling, and they're afraid to talk.
Exactly.
They're afraid to talk because the people are still out there. We don't know who did it. We just know who was there when it happened. The reason why we've gravitated to this case is because of Paula's tenacity and tenaciousness and fearlessness to do the investigation herself.
Yeah.
She's always involved the police and the FBI and the OSBI and the sheriffs, and they'll vet it out. But we don't know how they vetted it out.
For those of you who haven't seen Paula, she and Molly look almost exactly alike. It's incredible.
I mean, they're cousins and they have, their family, but when we first met Paula, she looked more like Molly than her mother.
Yeah, it was uncanny.
You want to get Paula on the phone now?
Yeah, let's call her.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi, Paula.
How are you?
I'm good. Rob's with me here.
Hey, Paula. How are you?
Okay. I'm good.
What has it been like for your family for the past 8 years? Can you just let people understand what you've been doing? Because what you've been doing is extraordinary, and how fearless you are and how vigilant you are in pursuing every single tip and every single lead that comes your way. So kind of just, can you give me a little bit of a sense of what it's been like for you?
Well, I just have this overwhelming feeling that I've got to follow up on everything that comes, because I don't feel like I can pass every tip I get along to somebody in law enforcement, whether it be Love County, Carter County, OSBI, the FBI. Over the years, I don't feel like that any of our tips that have been turned in have been ever played out to the end, that we can actually say, okay, that did not happen. So I have this need to make sure that every tip is vetted out as much as we can. I don't think I ever had the understanding of law enforcement. There's some wonderful people in law enforcement. Wonderful. There's those few bad apples. And I don't think I even knew until Molly went missing about the few bad apples and what it was going to take for us as a family to actually get the answers. Because when you have those few bad apples, they can put a roadblock.
And it's very intertwined. It's very incestuous there. Relatives, people know everybody. Like in a lot of these cases where there's things that they don't want people to see, is that they're trying to run out the clock. They're waiting for you to give up. They're waiting for people to not have any attention on this. They're waiting for witnesses to die. That's what it seems like.
I remember being told one time by a resident of Love County, why don't you stop this? Well, why would I? I will stop this when Molly is found. I will take everybody down that I feel like has any involvement, any knowledge, whether they be law enforcement or Joe Blow on the corner. I want them all to pay for hiding it, for covering it up, for being involved in it, whether directly, indirectly, I don't know. I have, over the years, my thought process has changed. My compassion has changed. And I hate that. I hate that it's made me into who I am today in some ways, but it is what it is. People cannot hurt people and get away with it and act like it's okay. And I don't really think that these people thought anybody would do anything about this. They thought they would get away with this. They thought it would just happen and nobody'd ever question it. Well, guess what? People are going to question it. And I'm going to make sure that they question it, and I'm going to continue until somebody's in jail for her murder.
Girl, real talk. This whole "it's new year, time to reinvent myself" trash is not the vibe for 2024. You can find someone who loves you for you, as you are. You don't need to read a stack of self-help books, only eat sad salads, or start meditating at 5 a.m. to be ready for dating. So yeah, my advice is to download Bumble and find someone who embraces you the way you are right now. Let me know how it goes.
Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, streaming January 25th, only on Netflix.
Paula, can you take us back to the beginning and give us a picture of what kind of girl Molly was and what she was involved in, who she hung out with, and what her character was like, and what kind of young girl she was?
She was just a fun-loving, carefree type person who enjoyed having fun. She was very athletic. She was very good at softball. She was just the type who would also, she would take up for people. She saw anybody being done wrong. She took up for that person, no matter who it was. And she was just an all-around great girl, honestly.
So when this happened, how old was Molly?
Molly was 17.
And was she still in high school?
Yes, she would have been going into her junior year.
Paula, can you just tell us what was going on in Molly's life in the months leading up to her disappearance?
In November, prior to her disappearance, her mother and I had actually spoke about her coming to stay with me. She was hanging out with the wrong people. She was kind of out of control a little bit. What her mother said to me was, she listens to you. We were going to do that. We actually talked about it. She was going to talk to Molly about it and get back with me. We kind of dropped the ball. Nothing was ever said about it after that. I think things probably started getting a little bit better, and, they thought everything was going to be fine. And then in May, prior to her disappearance, was the last time I saw her, and we were at a family reunion. She had poison ivy. She stayed indoors most of the time because it was just too hot. So she stayed in under the air conditioner. I didn't spend a lot of time with her that day, and I regret it so badly. My older son, who was about 30 years old at the time, he was indoors with her a lot, talking to her and stuff. When we left that night to head home, and we lived about 2.5 hours from them, my son actually said to me, "Mom, we need to turn around and go back and get Molly." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Because I just feel like something bad's about to happen to her." At the time, he did not elaborate on why he thought that. He just said, "I just feel like something bad's about to happen to her." Now, to be perfectly transparent, my son has been an addict himself. So he knew the signs. I think I was naive to the fact that Molly was into anything like she was into. And I don't know, like using drugs. I would have never thought that of Molly, but you know what? She got into a bad route. She was just trying to fit in. Doesn't make her a bad person. It wasn't until years later, after Molly was missing, that he actually told me about some of the conversations him and her were having when he was indoors with her. And that's what made him believe that she was just in with a very bad crowd and that we needed to try to get her out of the situation. But I didn't know that until years later. He didn't even tell me at the time Molly went missing. It took him years to tell me about some of the things. He knew she was using. At the time, they had discussed it. And he's very open about his addiction, and he tried to talk to her about it and tell her where it was going to lead her.
Which drug was she using at that time?
Methamphetamine. We were in the process of moving into a new home at the time, and I told him once we get moved, I'll talk to her mom, and we will see what we can do. And of course, I dropped the ball, and I never followed through. Just a little over a month later, and she's gone. There's a lot of regret, a lot of what ifs. So there's that.
Do you think that's what keeps you going?
I think it's part of it, yeah. Yeah. I feel so guilty. My husband told me, he said, I wish you'd have told me about that conversation. And we probably would have made sure she came to stay. Not to say that this may not have ever happened. Can't turn back time now.
How long had she been involved in drugs, did she say? Was it something new? Were these people new that had come into her life?
I don't think that was discussed, or if it was, he didn't really, he never told me.
That area seems to have a very big problem with methamphetamines, and I think that that's another key component of this case.
I agree. I know it's everywhere, and because of my son being an addict, and I've been through this with him, but never to the extent that I have seen with what's going on in Love and Carter County. Never seen anything like that.
Did you ever hear about Colt Haynes before this had happened? Did you ever hear that name?
No, it was quite a surprise to her friends and some in her family as well. They'd never heard of him or that she even knew him.
Can we talk a little bit about Colt Haynes for a minute? Who he was in Molly's life? How long did they know each other?
You know, she had only known Colt for a week and a half. She hadn't known him long.
I've actually learned very little about Colt Haynes. I just don't know. You know, you get two different stories depending on who you're talking to. I hear he's a great human being. He's a really thoughtful guy, and he's got his demons. He struggles. He was struggling, you know, with addiction. And I've heard good and bad, but I'm going to choose to believe the good. Katie Savage, for one, she said when things were good, things were good. So she knows him better than anybody, but I never really have been told a lot about him.
I spoke to Katie, the mother of Colt's son, and I also spoke to Colt's brother when we did the show. And they both said that Colt was struggling with a drug addiction, which seems to be a common theme in this area. Colt's son was only 10 months old when he went missing, and I do know that it has been really difficult for Katie not to have any answers, because she's always been worried about what she's going to tell her son about his father.
Prior to being involved with Colt, Katie was in a relationship with Conn. And when we did the documentary, we found out there was a lot of abuse in that relationship.
It was very upsetting hearing Katie's story about her relationship with Conn. She was very clear, and she said that Colt and Conn did not like each other, and she was surprised to hear that they were hanging out together. But she also said that the only reason Conn and Colt would ever be together is because of the drugs.
So how did Molly get involved with Colt Haynes and Conn Nipp?
I do know that she was with her friend, Jessica, and they were staying in a house of a guy named Josh Davis, and that's where Conn had picked them up. She knew Conn. He was not new to her life. She knew of him. Understanding, she had known Conn for some time, and the girl she had been hanging out with in the weeks prior to her disappearance told me that her and Molly had spent time down on Long Hollow Road just the week prior to her disappearance. So she straight up told me Conn would not hurt her. He liked Molly. And it took me a while to understand Conn, listening to a lot of recordings of him and learning him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I believe with all my heart, Conn knows exactly what happened and where she's at. Do I think he's the one who hurt her? No. And I haven't for a very long time. But he is the reason all of this happened, because he ran amok. He was able to do as he pleased, and he knew he would get in no trouble. But I don't think he set out for Molly to get hurt that night or that next day or the day after, whatever. I don't think that was ever the case. Colt Haynes, I don't think Conn's intention was ever for Colt Haynes to end up dead, but I think there was a lesson to be learned for Colt by some people, from what I've been told. The drugs, that may have been the reasoning behind those two being together, but Molly was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was with the wrong people. But I really don't think Conn intended for Molly to get hurt. Don't get me wrong. I've had compassion for that boy. He could have stopped this a long freaking time ago. He could have stopped it. That's where my compassion stops for him. If he has made us go through hell for 8 years now, he could have stopped it.
One of the biggest questions I've had, the days leading up to Molly's disappearance, what was she doing and who was she with? And I think there's always been like some speculation about that, but I just want to be clear on,
Well, and we can verify all of this. This is not something that is just made up stuff. It's verifiable. Okay. Well, leading up to the Sunday of the car chase, she had been staying in Ardmore with this Josh Davis, and the police chase was on the 7th of July. I know on the 5th of July, Molly, Colt, a guy by the name of Bobby Williams, and a boy by the name of Zach Peebley, they were caught on surveillance video in the parking lot at the Wilson Casino, and there was a drug deal going down out there in the parking lot. And I've got stills of Molly and of Colt and Zach and Bobby showing them in the parking lot. And then
What time was it? What time was that again?
It was in the evening because it was dark outside. It's lighting outside, so you can see them all just perfectly in the stills.
And that's July 5th.
So, and then we have documentation of Bonita Long's. Her statement was that her and Devin Johnson, okay, those two are two of the people who was out looking for Molly and Colt the morning of the 8th. Just to refresh your memory on who they are. But on the 6th of July, they went to Josh Davis's house and picked up Molly and Colt, and they all went to Rob Branch's house. Now, she knows it was the 6th of July because it was her birthday, and that's what she states in her interview. And they picked Molly and Colt up, and they went to Rob Branch's house. Rob Branch is Conn's cousin. Conn felt it was okay to spend time over at Rob's house and party it up and stuff. And it was on the 7th, the day that Conn picked Colt and Molly up from Josh Davis's house. Apparently they were dealing drugs. Colt Haynes and Josh Davis were dealing drugs. Colt told Josh that Conn told me if we take our dough to his people, we can double our money. So when they left Josh Davis's house, they had $1,800 worth of dope on them. You know, Molly and Colt were picked up by Conn the morning of the 7th, which was a Sunday, and they went to Rob Branch's house. They left Molly at Rob Branch's house during the day on that Sunday. And we can even verify through her phone records that she's calling Colt and she's calling Conn to come and get her. I also have a message, and it wasn't sent to me, it was sent to somebody else. Rob Branch's wife at the time, her name's Nikki. She was talking to another woman on Messenger, and she told her that she woke up. She states that she made Molly leave. I have a feeling, and I don't know this to be 100% accurate, but I have a feeling because the story back then was Molly was at Rob Branch's house, and Nikki woke up. And at the time, Nikki was trying to get sober. And Nikki woke up and found Rob and Molly in the kitchen doing drugs. She got pissed, and she told Molly she had to leave. And I think that, I don't know this for certain, this is speculation on my part, but I think that is probably at the time when Molly starts trying to get Colt and Conn to come back and get her. And then they eventually did, of course, and then hence the police chase and that type of thing that went on after that. We know on the 5th, she was in Wilson. We know on the 6th, she was back in Wilson at Rob Branch's house. We know on the 7th, she was back at Rob Branch's house. The police chase was somewhere around 10:30 and lasted approximately 30 minutes. They were going at speeds of up to 120 miles an hour. Then around 12:57 a.m., Molly dialed 911. It was only a 5-second call, and the dispatcher only heard button being pushed. They attempted to call her back with no response. I don't know if the law states this in every state, but there's a domestic abuse law regarding 911 calls that if a call is made into 911 and it's a hang-up call, you call back with no response, somebody is to be dispatched because somebody may be in distress and unable to answer their phone. But nobody was ever dispatched to the area. Throughout the night, into the early morning hours, Molly and Colt were calling people to try to get somebody to come and pick them up. And that's how we know they were in this police chase with Conn, because they stated as much on the phone calls that they were making.
To their friends?
Yes. I've got Molly's phone record. There is 33 incoming and outgoing calls to one phone number, and that's to a boy by the name of DJ Epley. According to him, he was talking to Colt Haynes on these calls. So Colt Haynes was using Molly's phone. There's only 2 calls that we are aware of, and those were 6:33 a.m. She spoke to somebody, and then again at 9:30-ish, she spoke to another person. Those are the only 2 calls during the whole time frame I know of anybody actually speaking to Molly before their phones went dead. The rest of those calls was Colt Haynes using her phone. The morning hours of July the 8th was the last time anybody has spoke to Molly.
So this is Molly's mother, Melissa's police report that she made with Wilson PD. And it was written up by the chief of police, Felix Hernandez, on July 8th.
They did it right away.
She did it right away, yeah. Okay. So on Monday, July 8th, 2013 at 9 a.m., Melissa Henderson, mother of Molly Miller, came to the Wilson Police Department to file a runaway report on Molly. Molly left the residence on Friday, 6/28/2013, wearing blue jeans and a white shirt. She was 5'5", 98 pounds, black hair, blue eyes. Henderson advised that Molly had been reported in the Wilson area, and Molly was entered into NCIC as a runaway missing person. I asked Melissa Henderson why she waited until today to file a runaway report, and she stated that Molly has run away at other times and would return home a day or 2 later. She was hesitant to file a report today. I told her that it would be a good idea to file a report because if she was stopped by police and checked, she would come back as a runaway through NCIC.
Molly was labeled a runaway in the beginning. Molly, for whatever reason, I don't know the specifics on that, but she did not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert.
If Wilson PD had done an Amber Alert on Molly because she was a minor at the time, then maybe Love County Sheriff's Department would have had no choice but to tell Wilson PD that Molly had been with Conn in the high-speed chase.
What I find most disturbing about this is that Molly's mother, Melissa, was at Wilson PD filing a police report at 9 a.m., Meanwhile, about 30 miles away, Molly is in the woods calling her friends to come and pick her up.
You know, I've heard people say, why didn't she contact family? Well, here's my belief. I know Molly did not realize she was in danger. And she's out doing things that she's not supposed to be doing. She knows she's going to get in trouble by grandpa, mom. She's going to be in trouble. So she's not calling her mom and dad or her grandpa for help because she knows she's going to be in trouble. But does she realize within the next 48 hours she's going to be dead? No, I don't think that ever crossed her mind. That, in my opinion, is the reason she never contacted family, because I don't think she understood the urgency of what she was dealing with.
Now, the night before, Conn Nipp was in a high-speed chase with police. How come law enforcement did not question him immediately?
I know, and see, that's something that's very concerning to me, even to this day, with even the people that we have involved in her case now, legally, law enforcement-wise. What is very concerning to me is we know, without a shadow of a doubt, that Conn, Molly, and Colt were in this car during a police chase. We know that the police chase ended. We know one person made it back home to his grandma and grandpa's house that night. We know this without a shadow of a doubt. But we know there's 2 people out in the woods. These 4 people were out searching for him. They went to Conn's house. They saw Conn in person. He's home.
So the Nipps knew that Molly and Colt were with him the night before.
I don't understand how he is not prime suspect number 1.
Why didn't he tell Wilson PD what had happened? Then maybe they could have informed Molly's mother that she was lost in the woods, and maybe she would be here today.
Instead, they labeled Molly a runaway, and law enforcement never did a proper search of that area.
During that first week of her missing, the way I found out about it was a post made on Facebook. My cousin Julie, it was her on Facebook, and I called Molly's mother immediately and asked her what is going on. And she basically at that point just told me that Molly had been in a high-speed chase with some people. Nobody has been able to get a hold of her since.
And so Molly goes missing. It takes you a couple of days to get involved. And the Wilson Police Department, what did they do after that? Did they investigate anything, or did they talk to you, or did they talk to anyone?
Well, Ryan Parsley, who was the one who also was in the police chase, I don't know how to really explain
I don't know how he was toward Melissa and Kevin, but I know I can say how he was toward me and my cousin and my sister, and he was very uncooperative. He even threatened to arrest me because we had gone there like at 2 o'clock in the morning to the police department, me and my sister and my cousin, and we were talking to him about something, and we wanted some information, and he refused to give us the information we were asking for. To my knowledge, no, I don't know how far he was following up on leads, because that night we asked him, there was a particular person that he needed to get a statement from, and he said that she would not talk to him. And we said, well, if we get the statement, will that suffice? So he started printing off statement papers for us, legal statement papers that they would hand over to somebody to write out a statement. And so he handed those over to us, and he said, sure. He said, you can get a statement from her. It'll be fine. So we left there. We called her, and she met us that night in the middle of the night, and we had her statement by 4 a.m. And I didn't feel like they were taking Molly's disappearance seriously. They knew Molly, and I think that they just thought that she would be home. I don't think that they thought she would never be home. And I'd heard that Ryan has had a very difficult time with what has transpired over the past several years because he did not take it seriously when it began. And had he taken it seriously, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation today. Molly's mother, he also called the Love County Sheriff's Department. It was either on the 8th or the 9th to also make a missing person report there.
And what happened when she did that with Love County?
Well, the dispatcher that answered the phone listened to her, and I guess Joe Russell and a couple others were leaving the sheriff's department at the time this call came in. So she took the handset out there to the sheriff's truck and told him, I've got Molly Miller's mother on the phone, and she's wanting to make a missing person report. And he said that he is not willing to take that report and that that's Carter County's problem.
I'm not surprised that he said that he wouldn't take a police report when Molly's mother asked, because when we went there and we were pursuing a conversation with him, he said, F the family. And
he didn't care about the family.
I mean, we were in shock. We couldn't believe that he said that. I mean, that's
and he said it to a stranger.
Yeah. Just F the family. Don't care. I mean, how do you be so cold and so callous about this? It's astonishing.
Joe Russell was the sheriff of Love County when Molly went missing, and this case, Molly and Colt's disappearance, turned a huge light on the corruption in the police department there.
Joe Russell was arrested in 2016, and he did go before the grand jury. Paula, you saw the grand jury transcripts of Joe Russell's trial. Can you share what they said with us?
Okay. The transcripts that have come out in the federal grand jury that Joe Russell was maintaining a meth house at his home. His adult son was living with him. They were selling meth out of this house. His son was allowed to drive his sheriff official vehicle to sell drugs and deliver drugs. Joe Russell would go to the river, according to this transcript, and pick up bikini-clad girls. He would arrest them. They're leaving there thinking they're going to jail. They're being brought back to his house, and they are being drugged and made to dance for them, for him and his son and whoever else I'm assuming is in the home at the time that all of this is going on.
And what's Joe Russell's relationship to Conn Nipp?
They are cousins.
Can you tell me, though, a little bit about when Carter County had gone to Long Hollow Road, that in the first week after Molly went missing?
Okay. Yeah, it was actually 2 days after she went missing. The Carter County Sheriff's Department, the adjacent county, there was a report that came in, or a tip that came in, that Molly was tied to a tree at the end of Long Hollow Road. Molly's uncle also received this information, and he went to Long Hollow Road as well. It was the undersheriff and a couple of other deputies that went there. When they got to Long Hollow Road, the end of Long Hollow Road was being blocked off by the Love County Under Sheriff Harvey and the Chief of Police of Wilson, Felix Hernandez. They were told at that time that everything was fine. Joe Russell's down there checking it out. Conn's just down there babysitting his nephew. But we have this other tip over here in North Love County. Let's go over here and check that out. So nobody ever on that tip checked it out for themselves other than Love County. And the cousin, the sheriff, is the one down there checking this out.
Joe Russell.
If Molly is and if Molly's down there tied to a tree, the others were led off to this other location that they went to check out. I do air quotes every time I say that. It's never been determined by anybody other than Joe Russell, somebody we cannot trust, if she was actually down there tied to a tree that day.
And with his reputation of picking up girls and bringing them back to his house and keeping them prisoner, it wouldn't be too far off to say that Molly was probably tied to a tree down there.
Exactly. And that goes along with other things that we've been told over the course of the first 4 years, let's say. It goes right along with everything that we've been told.
Which is?
I have spoke to other girls who have been in this world with these same players, with these same people. It's like a joke to tie these girls to a tree and drug them and have sex with them while they're tied to the tree and this type of thing. This has been something told to me at least on 2 occasions by 2 different girls.
So it is not too far off to say that this could have happened to Molly.
There's no doubt in my mind that that is exactly what happened to Molly.
So, Paula, when did you actually go down to Love County to see for yourself what was going on?
On July the 17th, Molly's mother and another one of our cousins called me, and Molly's mom was just distraught and screaming into the phone, "They hurt my baby, they hurt my baby, they hurt my baby." And I'm like, "What do you mean they hurt your baby?" I said, do you know something? She said, "No, I just know that they did. And I need you here." We lived over 2 hours away. So the next morning, my sister and I got up. We drove straight to Love County, and we've never lived there. We knew nothing about it. So we just drove there and went straight to Oswald and Long Hollow Road. And we drove around Long Hollow Road, and then we just parked. And we walked on both sides of the road. From Long Hollow, it was where we began. And we just started walking west. Conn, he lived on Long Hollow Road with his grandparents.
So when you got to Long Hollow Road, did you try to talk to Conn?
No. We weren't from the area. We didn't know exactly the players involved at that point. My sister and I did not. We were hearing all these names thrown out, but we weren't really wrapping our mind around exactly what was transpiring with these people. At this point, I knew something was wrong. Never in a million years would Molly do this, just up and vanish without getting a hold of somebody. Whether it be a friend, whether it be somebody in the family, she would not do this. From the very beginning, when all of this started coming out in that first week, I told my sister, they've done something to her. She's no longer with us. And she agreed, and I think the family was beginning to believe this as well.
Next time on Partners in True Crime.
They're coming for you, I promise you, Paula. They won't never let that shit go. And the more you start, the more you're going to get have them on you. I promise you.
Well, I woke up to a message on Facebook with nothing but a phone number.
This is the craziest case I've ever seen.
Hurt Molly. I just can't imagine why somebody would. She had one of the best hearts.
He said he has some information that would help us find closure.
I mean, I can tell you and show you, but I can't bring them babies home.
It devastated him, crushed him, and he never stopped searching for Molly.
The tips that came in the very beginning, and that's where everybody says your truth is, they were at Moxley Lake.
There it is. The other gun's a little sawed-off shotgun. It's in a well right there in town.
All rights reserved. This has been a production of 722 Media Content.
For any tips relating to the disappearance of Molly Miller and Colt Haynes, please contact 833-4-MOLLY and Colt, and they will be directed to the proper law enforcement agency.
Please check out our website, where you'll find supplemental material and Vi's original song, Take Me Back, written for Molly Miller. If you or anyone you know has been the victim of sexual abuse, please contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline.
If you or anyone you know is suffering from a methamphetamine addiction, please contact the American Meth Addiction Hotline.